Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Hot Toys, the Lone Ranger Tonto 1/6 scale collectible figure. From a somewhat disappointing movie, I wasn't really a big fan of Lone Ranger, but the one thing that I took away from the movie was I really liked the look of Tonto. I liked Johnny Depp's interpretation of Tonto, and when Hot Toys was releasing a Tonto, I really wanted to add it to my collection. Presumably there was also going to be a Lone Ranger 1/6 scale figure released, but I understand, I guess because the movie didn't do very well, we may never see that Lone Ranger, which is a shame. You know, you have to have Tonto, you would want to have Lone Ranger along with him, but as it is, I am happy to finally add this guy to my collection. The box is pretty interesting, actually. It's got a weathered kind of paper look to it, almost like a wanted poster. Johnny Depp's portrait is on the front, but it looks like it's been painted in like watercolor paints. It's a really neat look for the box. Also, too, the bottom of the box is shredded. Again, it kind of gives it that wanted poster look to it. The back of the box, we just spin it around there, says choking hazard, small parts not for children under 3 years old, adult collectible. It's not a toy, and it's recommended for ages 15 and up. From there, the top of the box can slide off, and underneath, you see Tonto, along with the multitude of accessories that he comes included with. Spot's going to take himself a break and get this opened up. When we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Hot Toys Lone Ranger Tonto 1/6 scale figure. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Like every Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure, Tonto gets his own standard display stand. The top of the stand says Disney's The Lone Ranger, and front of the stand on placard features Tonto. And like every other standard Hot Toys stand, the back of the neck is adjustable depending on how you want to display the figure. You know, I gotta say that despite the fact it came from such a poorly received movie, the Tonto here looks really good. He has some things to him that you don't really see with a lot of other Hot Toys pieces, namely the rooted hair and the levels. There's multiple layers of clothing here in the piece. Let's get a closer look at his face, and I think it's a pretty good likeness. Slightly off. I don't feel like it's 100% a likeness of Johnny Depp, but it's pretty good though. The same thing that he had in the movie, however, that kind of flaking look to his paint is pretty accurately presented here in the 6 scale version of him as well. The crow, as well as the headdress, the bandana here isn't removable, so you don't want to be taking it off. But I think it's a pretty good look to Johnny Depp here as Tonto. For his hair, they actually went about using 2 different mediums, and it's not really until you flip him around the back that you see the difference between the two. The top of his head, right underneath the crow, is sculpted hair that's sculpted to the rest of the head. Underneath, though, underneath the bandana, is implanted fabric hair. Similar hair that we would have seen with like a Black Widow 6 scale figure, or really for that matter, like a doll's hair. I like this much better that they went this route, as opposed to doing this sculpted hair all the way down, especially when you have longer areas of hair. Had that all been sculpted, I think it wouldn't have had that more realistic look that we get here. So I'm glad they went with a fabric hair rather than a sculpted hair. I really also got to get the camera in there to show you guys some of the details on that face. And around the face too, if you move the areas of the hair out of the way, he's got sculpted braids coming down from his bandana, and those braids have feathers on the ends of them. He's also got that similar hair around the necklace area that he's got on his around his neck as well. So there's got a lot of details there. I like the crow too. The crow is a very nicely sculpted piece, and especially can be said as well for the bandana. I mean, like, head, everything works extremely well, and you got to get that camera in there to show some of those details, because like from a distance, you see how impressive it is, but when you start looking closer at the piece is when you really start appreciating how much they put into him. If I actually move his tribal necklace out of the way and kind of get his hair out of the way, you can see that underneath that is a pretty decent sculpt torso. He's darker in color than what regular Johnny Depp would have been, like he got a little more tanned and stuff like that for this role, but like the torso has almost like a dirtier look to it, and he's got some more additional paint on his arms and in his hands area. Like there's a considerable amount of paint that's been added to the torso. Again, this is one of those things where even though the movie didn't do all that great, you know, I really appreciate what a fantastic job the Tonto ended up being, especially in hand. In hand is really where you start appreciating him. Even if you move around the back area there, like the back doesn't seem like it's as dark of a torso area as much as the front. Now granted, it could be argued that a lot of the back's going to be covered by his hair anyways, so you're really not necessarily going to see it. When we start having a look at the rest of Tonto's outfit, you see he's got almost like a faux suede pant that he's got, and he's got all these extra little belts and stuff like that too. Like it's a phenomenal looking piece, because when you start looking at all the little things, you start picking up details that you probably didn't see before. He's also got this kind of, it looks like it's been laced up by hand right down the side seam of his pants. It gives it a very realistic look to it. And then decking out the bottom of his outfit is the moccasins that he's got going on there. The pants do a pretty good job of concealing the peg point for where the ankles sit into place. I have to always kind of keep straightening the pants, because if they do move slightly, yeah, you see a little bit where the legs, the feet peg into place. But luckily the pants are long enough that they can kind of cover over that area. Also, a couple of other things that you want to add to Tonto when you get him out of packaging. Like, they include bracelets, but they didn't actually put them on the figure. These are things that you have to add separately. There's like a bracelet that would go around his bicep section, and then he's got like smaller bracelets that go around his wrists. So we'll put those on right now. For his right side, or looking at him, his left side, what you're going to want to do is take his hand and just pop it off the socket like that, just removing it from the peg. Then you can take his arm bracelet. I guess it really wouldn't be a bracelet by the time it gets to his arm area, but you want to slide that up as far as you can onto his bicep. The fact that it's being stretched as you're moving it up also means it's not going to move around on you too. So you can get that on there, and then from there you're going to want to add the this bracelet right here, which has just like a little stone decoration to it. You want to get that onto his hand, and then from there you can just put the hand back on. For his left side, or looking at him, his right side, you're going to pull the hand once again off, and you want to take this white tribal bracelet. You know, once again, you're just going to put it on his hand. I guess the only downside, though, is because you're going to be changing out the hands, this might slide off when you start removing and changing hands to other alternate hands that he comes with. But it seems like they stay on there well enough once you get them past that little lip area. They seem as if they kind of stay on there well enough. So changing hands, I guess, shouldn't be too much of an issue. You just want to keep an eye on this, that it doesn't pop off or doesn't slide off when you're changing them. And then the hand from there just goes back into place. Another accessory that can be added to Tonto is this little pouch. Kind of has that same material as his pants, that suede material, and it's got some pretty decent stitching around the outer edge of the pouch. Now for this, it looks as if you actually have to take it and loop it around his belt and tie it off to get it on his belt. It can be a little more difficult to get the pouch looped around his belt, but once you get that tied off, it sits very easily in place. Tonto also gets a sheath that can hold his supplied dagger, and there's a little clip on the top there that you want to clip onto his belt. The dagger is pretty nicely painted. It has a more rustic look to it, like somebody had actually crafted the blade and then wrapped and stitched a leather handle around it. But you can take your dagger and slide that just into the sheath located on the side of his belt. Tonto's other accessories will include 2 axes, and actually each of the axes are different from one another. One has a much larger blade, one has a more smaller blade, and the handles on both axes are a little bit different from one another too. This particular axe, just want to draw your attention to, has a little bit of extra roping at the bottom here, where this one does not. But like the dagger, both of them look like they've been hand forged. Little dents and indentations to the blade. Looks as if somebody had actually made it from hand. You also get yourself a very aged looking pistol that actually has a clip at the back that moves, as well as a rotating barrel. I don't see a section where the pistol can be housed on Tonto, so I'm thinking unless you want to have him holding it at all times, you probably will want to just leave it off. But I'm surprised actually there, unless you want to just kind of tuck it inside his belt, you could kind of do that as well, to have him displayed so much with it and not have him so much holding it. His final 2 accessories, and also the smallest of his accessories, he comes with 2 pocket watches. One watch is open-faced, the watch has been opened, the other one is closed. They both come on real chains, and if you are wondering, the one that is open, you can't close shut. It's just a rubbery plastic, there's nothing that's hinging or snapping together when you can close it, so it will always stay open, and then the other one is closed shut. The 2 watches can be kept inside the pouch, but the hardest aspect of the pouch is that it has a real button. There's a little real button and notch where you have to untab the button from itself to get that pouch opened. I thought initially it was just a snap, but because it's a button, be careful when you're opening this that you don't rip that off. Of course, Tonto also gets his fair share of interchangeable hands. He has a pair of closed fists, a pair of partially closed hands for holding weapons, and 1 open hand, which you can also flip around and you can have them displayed with the watches in hand as well if you'd like. Hot Toys also got you covered for extra pegs. Of course, 2 pegs also included for if you ever happen to break the pegs, you got extras. Tonto utilizes a Hot Toys True Type body and features over 30 points of articulation. He features a ball joint in the head, which rotates left and right, up and down. He only has the 1 ball joint though. The ball joint's only sitting in the neck head socket. There is no additional articulation in the neck. He also has ball hinge sockets in the shoulders, which allow the arms to rotate forward and back and out. A peg and hinge joint in the elbow, allowing the elbows to bend back and forth, and also has that same swivel in the forearm area. He has swiveled in the hands via that peg that we were looking at earlier, and also features a ball joint in the torso. His legs work very easily and not hindered at all by the pants that he's wearing. They move out freely forward and back, has a swivel at the thigh, has a nice double bend at the knee, and finally, that ball hinge joint in the foot. Hot Toys really seems to know what they're doing when it comes to Johnny Depp figures. They've released several Jack Sparrow figures before, and now of course we're going to be getting an Ichabod Crane from Sleepy Hollow coming very soon. They did a lot of things right for Tonto. Yes, sure, okay, Lone Ranger wasn't a great movie, I accept that, but I gotta say, I really like this figure. Johnny Depp may not have the most memorable role on his hands when he did Tonto. I'm sure years from now people aren't going to remember this character, but it had such an iconic presence to it. There was something about him on screen that really gravitated me towards the character. Getting the 6 scale version of this character in hand, I'm really happy I was able to add him to my collection. The Tonto from Hot Toys is currently available over at Alter Ego Comics. I'm going to provide the link down below if you guys are interested in picking this guy up for yourself. Just because the movie wasn't very good, I gotta say though, the figure turned out excellent. Today's collectible spot, we're looking at the Hot Toys The Lone Ranger Tonto 1/6 scale collectible figure. Stay tuned guys, Spot's going to have more collectible spots heading your way. Certainly thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.